Here we. So this is Charlie. I'm here with my good friend Orlando. Gosh, we've worked together for 30, 40 years. I don't know, it was back longer than I can remember. And he's also a 4D provider these days. And what prompted me to invite him to talk with me was that he's had a problem that's increasingly a problem. That is that these institutional things trying to deal with all kinds of extreme ransomware or hacking and all these things are putting more and more guards on emails. And the particular system that generates the ones for the TDAs and IDAs was hacked some years ago by, and we didn't even know it, by a Russian thing, and they were relaying spam through our system, and that got us some kind of black eye, and we've removed that as best we could, but that problem persists. So Orlando, you want to say a few words here? Sort of introduce you a little bit. I won't talk much about your accomplishments because that would take the entire time we have.
Well, thank you, Charlie, and thanks for the opportunity to walk with you through how we can get our hands around the issue you described. Is particularly challenging for organizations like NASA that they're trying to do their best to address whatever threats there may be on the IT world and what have you. So we're going to talk about today would be a great opportunity to find other ways to work with that.
So I began to think about this problem and play with it. And one of the sort of, see, I'm sharing a screen somewhere. I don't think it's the one I want. Let me see. Yeah, this. So are you seeing this blank screen here, Orlando?
It's a blank screen and several folders. There
Okay.
you go. I can see you're
Great.
opening your Word document.
Okay.
Perfect.
So what I was thinking about is how could you make a way that we can input the data that is straightforward and can obviate the problem of having an institutionally oriented email blocked. And way back when we had a paper version of the things, and you could send those out. And you could actually do that with this. You could print this, and people could check it's not designed exactly for that, but you can modify this, and I'll show you how, in a simple way to make this a thing where you can just check the boxes. But I think, especially with COVID times, people are not working together in the offices as much. So in email, I'm surprised to find that there are whole groups of young people that don't use email at all, and of course, most of us in the technical community is very common. So I went poking around and found that you can take just plain old ordinary Word, and you can make a document like this. And so, Orlando, what I wanted to say to you is that I'm going to show you how to, if you go into this little box up here called the developer and tell it to restrict editing, you can have it do so that all these words become uneditable. But you can stop it by clicking on that box, and there's a password, and I put the word here that I chose, frankly, so I don't forget it, because I don't know what happens if you forget this password. And now you can edit this like any Word document you ever saw. So what I invite you to do is to change this, and I would put your company logo up here first, and I'd make it your process. And then you can give just credit to 4D someplace along the way, but that's not even important to me. So what did I do here? Open this Word document. I typed this stuff in just like I always did. And then you come up here, if you're in the developer tab, you can come up here and you can make a box to check. And if you wanted to make something for paper, I'd modify this and I would make several boxes that they could check. It's called the combo box content control. And this is the very similar one, drop-down list content control. So what I did is I typed regular typing, and I came to here, and I put this, I went to this drop down list content control thing, and I'm going to show it to you here. No, it won't. I'm going to do it here. Just show you what it looks like. So there's the box, and you can then go to its properties, and you can add things in here in the drop down menu. So I think I've done this, but I just want to show you how it works. So you put a title in here, and you could put hello, Orlando. And then it will typically copy that tag into here, or you can put a tag into here. You can come in here and you can choose an item for a drop down menu, which you could put, happy birthday or something if you wanted. And this tag, with this tag, which I'm not using, you can export this into a database. So I would say if you're going to use this methodology and use it enough, what I would do is I would learn how to, I didn't do this here. I think that's a complication we don't need. And so we cancel that and just go back, get out of this. And so what you see if you come here and click on this is that you have a place to enter your name. This is the normal entry. I misspoke a little bit. Here's here's a pull down here. So I asked them just to check their email address and just to make sure they look back. And then I took, this is our standard stuff from this TDAs for years. And I would invite you to look at this, edit it as you like. I don't have any problem with you changing the taste of this. But here's the thing, if you want to use the benchmarking curve, you've got to stay pretty much with this behavior and its things. So that's an introduction. And so the thing that's the backdrop behind me is, I think, that by far the most effective human behavior tool ever existed, that ever was built by anybody. And the reason it's so effective is when you're going through this thing that used to be called an assessment, now I call it an accelerator because it has such a profoundly positive effect on behavioral change. I think what's happening is I inadvertently, and thank God, made this a learning tool. So I'm always big in trying to explain the rationale for why we do something. So this is the reason why this matters. And by the way, I'd say, Orlando or anybody watching this, feel free to edit this. I mean, this is my thoughts, but if you got some different ideas about this behavior, it's perfectly open. This is the standard against which you're going to measure. And here's the place where you choose an item to meet the standard. So you come here to the drop down, and here's the always meet the standard, usually meet the standard, seldom, or I don't know. So we're doing the same thing as the online tool, just really simply. So you check one of those like usually, and then it shows that there. Now you go on and usually shows up. I think I could need a space there. That's a little thing I could fix. And then no, I take it back. I think this should be better done here. That's an error there that I've got to fix. So I'll take that out. That shouldn't be there, but here it is. So I'll fix these little things. I just want to show you how this works. And you can click on this box and you can go back into properties and you can change these, but I wouldn't do it because this is what matches what goes in the what creates the benchmarking curve. So I got to fix that little nuance there. So and here's a place to enter text. Click on that and enter text. Go to this same thing, and what'll happen when you get through is you'll have something where the Word document will show you the comments you put in and the choices you made. And these are the standard 8 behaviors. And there's I've for a long time I've thought this plus and delta is worthwhile. So we solicit these 2 questions, and again, Orlando or anybody, feel free to you don't need to have the 10 questions. They're not part of the benchmarking. I think they're useful, but the 8, the 9, and 10, if you don't like them, just take them out. And by the way, the only place I made the mistake having that stuck in the standard was there, it looks like. So so the point is, when you get through with this, you can then just email it back to whoever you got it from. So there's no emails being generated by anybody else. And you could modify this very slightly for a printed version using the same. What I would do is I would just go and use these add to put in the check marks and the choices in a little column to put check marks. But I think that these days printing it, and I mean, here's what I could imagine. Let's say you've got a team, and I've done this many years ago. I did a bakery, and the people didn't have email access, and I did a lot of work with the machine shop at JPL, and a lot of them, I mean, these are machinists. They didn't spend their days on these computers, so the printed form could work for them. And I could imagine you make the printed version of this. You could have it hand it out to everybody, put a little box in the hall for these to be collected. And one of the things that we worry about is protecting people's anonymity. And so, Orlando, you would know what each person did. And if someone broke into the box, they would know. But over the years, that's not been as much of a problem as you might imagine. Most people don't have it. But anyway, comments or questions, Orlando? Is simple.
No, this is great. You addressed a concern I had about how to protect the anonymity of the people participating, the participants. But there is a way to do that.
You would know, but nobody else would.
That's right.
And Orlando, my experience here, I am certain that people are going to trust you implicitly. And if you don't trust the 4D provider, the whole thing probably not going to work anyway. And yeah. You don't care, okay, what they're doing. So
yeah, the other thing I was thinking about, Charlie, is the examples. Those, yeah. There could be a pointer to the examples that we provide with each behavior.
Oh yeah. I think you could add, so absolutely you can do all kinds of things with this. It's basically everything you can do with Word. And when you click this tab, which looks kind of scary but really simple, you can do two things. You put fill in fields, and you restrict the editing. So now I'm going to go back to restrict the editing. So yes, start. So you can tell it here, just to show you how this works. You can tell it you can't do anything or whatever. What I want to say is only allow filling in the forms. Yes, start enforcing that. It's going to ask me for that. I'm going to put in 4D again. And you can put any password you want. I just, very few people would know how to do this, but there it is. And so now I can't change anything here, see?
So it's very nice. I appreciate you taking the time to do this because I had started to create a document to do that.
So this is really simple, and it creates 10 numbers, 10 adjectival ratings. So now we've got to go to step 2, which is to process the thing into to images and data. So I built this. This took yesterday, I think all morning. That's all, something like that. Maybe a day. I don't know. So the way I set this up is here's the 8 behaviors, and here's the 2 other questions. I put in just random names here of people who use a lot of assessments. And I put in random numbers. Finney never did this. She doesn't know, no one here ever did this. I just put in numbers. Then I have a function down here, and you can see that function on the screen. It's the regular average function. And one thing I like about it is it ignores the blanks. So I've checked for this kind of thing. So you want an average that that's not gonna take and make a blank a 0. It doesn't do that. So here's an example. So I made here's a test here where it's all 4s. The average showed up as 4. It didn't count that as 0, which would have made this less than 4. So I put in patterns in here, and I just checked over here with this average function, and I glanced at a few. It looks like they're right. And I put this number over here because I need a number to make the histograms. So the only thing is that if you paste this into a blank place, it'll go with divide by 0. So I made this so it's got extra things up here up to arbitrary number 27 people. And you could put in data for 27 people. Of course, doing this in reality, you would just zero all this out. I mean, you would just
Right.
delete all this with the delete key and it's gone. This is my test data. And there you are, Orlando, and you never did this. So,
Yeah,
so
that's pretty straightforward.
so next thing is, so I like to do what's called checksums a lot. So I do the averages this way and the averages this way, and then look at the average, looking two different directions. It should be the same and it is. You follow what I'm doing here? I'm doing a
Yes.
calculation, just two
Yeah, I'm
different
following
ways
you.
to make sure I didn't screw it up. Now we got to get to the number. And the way the number works is that I summed with this function, the number of times I had a 1 on here, and that's 42. Then I did the number of times I had 1.5. It's the same function, just with different numbers, blah, 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 blah. And I totaled those numbers and got 137. That took another function that counted all the numbers, any place there was a number, which is count. And it's also 137. So that's my checksum again. You with me?
Yep, I'm following.
Then I wanted to get the score in percent. So here's what I did. I took the numbers of ones, which is never meets. So you had to go from the adjectival number like never, and I just typed it into here as 1. You could have done this with zeros and 25% and all that. I thought simpler, just 1, 2, 3, 4, following the 4 numbers.
Mhm.
And then I took and made this algorithm that says the number of B33's number of ones, that's this here, that's 0. Now, why did I do that? Just to have a symmetric looking equation. So I looked at the number of 2's, and those are 25%. Number of 3's are 50%, and so forth. So I put the percent numbers here and added those up and divided it to normalize it to percent, and their score, this team score, was 73%. So and feel free to check any of these things. I did a pretty good check, but I'm not, details are not my strength. I used an Excel function to make a histogram, and here it is. And I invite you to take this and put in numbers, crazy numbers if you want, any number 1 to 4, and you'll watch this work. So here's each of the behaviors. So what I think this is useful for is, so what do you want to do with this? I didn't do this part because I think this is straightforward. I'd open up a Word document and I would start with a little introductory material. I copy and paste that from the recent assessments. I'll send you one if you want, or put whatever you want in there. And then I'd make a thing about, the overall percent. Here's what I do with that. I'd chart that on the benchmarking curve. I took the standard benchmarking curve and I glued in some little invisible rulers to help. And so this team would be down here at 73. So I'd put an arrow here for them, or some marker, just like the software does. The way I would do this is I would copy this. This was pasted with enhanced meta file, so it should be 1 unit. I'd copy this into PowerPoint. I'd go into PowerPoint, which where the manipulations are very easy. I'd put the marker at 73, whatever I'm going to put, arrow, whatever, I don't care what you use. Then I would group it, copy it back into the Word document, and that would be the same. So what you're going to do is you're going to build a Word document report piece by piece, just like the computer does with the online tool. I'd be surprised if you couldn't do this whole thing in an hour, and it's easy to spend an hour screwing with the online tool. So, and you could hire, a high school student could do this for you, or you could do it yourself, whatever. So then I would take this, and I think I would reproduce it in front of each of the behaviors, then put the comments. I just put a highlight, do the same thing. I put this in, paste this into PowerPoint. it's just much easier for me to manipulate things, graphics. I'd put some kind of thing. I might put a red thing around it if it was low. I'd add my little coloration in here and reproduce this in front of each of the behaviors.
Yeah.
Here's a different kind of view. This is a radar chart. I did this too, but I think I like the histogram, the bar charts better. But there's a different way to display the things. After I did it, I thought I don't like it that much. And then the histogram of individuals' perceptions. Now, this is a little bit trickier, and I invite you to play with this. You can put in here. If you right click in the correct place, you can find some ways to fool with this thing. And it's a different choice than this, but I'm not going to do a tutorial on all the things Excel can do. If you're curious about this, you can watch a YouTube video. And what I would do here is I would color this. I'd put in where I think the red. So these people are clearly reds. You might do it really simply. These people are clearly reds. This is a yellow, and these people are. You might just color them green. I think you can do this as you like. In PowerPoint, it's easy to overlay this with colors. And there's your TDA benchmarking curve. I did the wrong curve, but the 73% for teams would be here. It's interesting, and I've pondered this for a long, long time. I was surprised at how different the individuals were from the teams. Huh. And the people asked me about this. Early on, my explanation would be, we behave differently in groups. So think about this. If you're going to have your anniversary dinner, would you rather be in a restaurant with 20 tables of 2 people each, or next to one table of 40 people? And so, but more recently, what I'm seeing, especially in our politics, is groups tend to go down to the lowest common denominator. And so when you have a dysfunctional leader, whether he's a team leader or a group leader, informal leader, or a political leader, I think this is really true. The behavior tends to go down to the lowest common denominator. I watched this in action when we had a NASA administrator who had some of the personality characteristics of Donald Trump, but was smart. And I watched the behavior in the whole place degenerate within a month. So I think the lowest common denominator effect here is, but it's real. And there's your 2 benchmarking things. And just this morning, I glued these little rulers in here to make it easier to see the in-between values. So just to recap, I didn't lock cells in this. Maybe I should, I don't know. I think if you mess it up, it'll just show you some blue thing. But these fields in here are all the ones you can freely put numbers into, and that's what you're supposed to do. Again, if you extend this, you have to take this formula and copy it into here. If I copy it in here now, it doesn't like it. And so this will screw up your plots and everything. So I probably could have put a more complicated test in here and left that static, but I thought I'll leave a little bit of work for you guys. So
I'll play with it.
You follow me? So
yeah, absolutely. Now, Charlie, you entered numbers on the delta and the plus question, which are normally not ranked. But this was just you were playing with them?
Say again?
The plus.
Oh, yeah. I put numbers there because you're right. That's probably thank you, Orlando. I should fix that. That doesn't belong there. Thank you very much. Yep. I did it just doing it rote, but there's no ranking. Thank you.
Yep.
So we found 2 good screw ups here. Okay. Good eye, Orlando. So I'll delete those. Yep, that doesn't belong there. What I'm going to do is, I'll do this after we hang up, so I can not screw it up.
No, this is great, actually. I'll play with it.
Yeah,
so become very familiar.
Yeah, you're right. Doesn't belong. So And if you're used to Excel, it's very easy to make graphs. And so
Right.
the reason I put these down here is if you're going to graph something like this, it really helps to have these labels right next to the numbers.
Mhm.
So you just go to insert and can pick what kind of chart you want. And there it is. You can have a chart like that, which I don't think is very useful. And then you can take this chart and go into here, go back into recommended charts, and it's got all kinds of choices in here. So you can pick pick a version that puts the labels up against the things. That's easy to play with in Excel. Lots and lots of possibilities. So you want to make some different kind of charts. That's the reason these are repeated here, because it's just easy in Excel.
Very good.
So I think this makes the major data products. And again, I would manipulate these, and I wouldn't try and paste these into Word and then try and do graphics in Word. I just find it difficult.
Oh yeah, it's too hard.
Yeah, we'll put this into PowerPoint, and you can put colors and arrows and highlights. And then, by the way, I like if you're gonna paste, there's a thing up here called Paste Special, and what it gives you choices. Well, this is not the normal one. I usually am pasting out of it's not what I'm used to seeing. Usually pasting out of Word, but it'll let you in the Paste Special choose enhanced meta file.
Mhm.
And what that does is it pastes it at like it's one object. I'm not making this very clear. A regular paste will paste this in a way that the behaviors are a piece, the bars are a piece, these are a piece.
Right.
Enhanced meta file will make this whole thing one object. What's the reason for that? Well, then you can expand and contract it. It'll all shrink proportionally.
Right.
If you don't do the enhanced meta file when you paste it, then when you do it, when you shrink it, let me see what's going to happen here. You might find well, I may have done that as a paste as an enhanced meta file, because that's what it's doing, what it's supposed to do. That's what you want, to be able to reshape it.
So yeah, it scales it according to the
Exactly.
content, full content. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's good.
By the way, I never did anything with these calculations, but they don't belong here. So thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
That's what I call an eye level loose bolt.
No, thank you for doing this, Charlie. I mean, this is the heavy lifting of what was needed.
This is straightforward, isn't it, Orlando?
Yeah, it is, and that's easy, fairly easy to follow.
And again, I invite you to just put in any numbers you want here, and you should watch everything change. I think all that'll work. There's no way I could have made these graphics other than going to this source material. So I think that part of it should be fine. And I think, so it's a little bit odd going from 0 to 25 to 50 to 75 and then up to 100.
Right.
So let me think here. I'm going to check that too. Okay. But the reason it's a little bit strange is I was trying to stretch this out when we saw this early on.
You were trying to stretch the scale.
Yeah. So.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, Orlando.
Okay, very good. Hey, thank you so much, Charlie. I'll play with it. Run a couple of test cases.
I'll send you a revised version in about an hour.
Okay.
And I'll fix that little error in the other thing. And again, that password I just copied it into the body of the thing. And of course, if I send it out to anybody else, I just delete that.
Yeah.
But I don't know what happens if you forget the password, and I didn't want to find out.
Well, you picked a simple one, so.
Yeah, that's right.
Very good, Charlie. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thanks for the extra background information on the history of